The year was 2478. Earth looked peaceful from space. Blue oceans, white clouds, silent continents. For 200 years there had been no wars, no fleets, no defense systems. Humanity believed it had outgrown the need for weapons. But peace can be the deepest kind of illusion. Every night, above the clouds, thousands of small shapes floated in orbit, invisible to normal eyes, invisible to every radar built after the 2300s. People thought they were debris, old satellites, dead machines from the early space age. They were wrong. Hidden beneath layers of electromagnetic camouflage, they waited, patient, silent, and ancient. Their metal hulls were covered in space dust, their engines asleep. For centuries they had listened, watched, waited for a signal that never came until tonight. It began with a faint hum. In an abandoned observatory in the Andes, an old radar dish turned on by itself. Lights blinked on the control board, dusty from years of silence. The signal was weak, almost like static, but it had a rhythm, a code. In the city below, Dr. Mara Quinn, a 27-year-old astrophysicist, sat alone in her small apartment. She worked night shifts at the Global Space Institute, mostly cleaning data from old sky scans. It was boring work, until her screen flashed red. Unidentified orbital movement detected. Mara frowned. Earth's orbit had been quiet for decades. Nothing ever moved up there except old junk. She zoomed in. At first it looked like background noise. But then, the noise moved again. Objects were shifting in Earth's shadow. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. She ran a quick scan. They weren't meteors. They weren't satellites. They weren't anything known. Her heart began to race. She sent a report to her supervisor, no reply. Then another message came on her screen, not from her system, but from an unknown source. "We are awake." Her breath froze. Across the planet, strange things started happening. Power grids flickered. Old military satellites that had been decommissioned a century ago came back online. Even deep under the Pacific, in forgotten bunkers, lights turned on after 200 years of darkness. In orbit, the silent machines began to move. They aligned in perfect formations. Circles, triangles, long chains that stretched across the sky. The space junk wasn't junk at all. It was a fleet, a hidden armada. At the Global Defense Center, alarms started ringing. Commanders shouted. Screens filled with data no one could understand. "Who's controlling them?" someone yelled. "No one," answered another. "There's no command signal from Earth." The ships were moving on their own. In space, one of the old satellites opened like a flower. Underneath its panels, a giant cannon turned toward the stars. Its barrel glowed faint blue like the color of ice before it cracks. Down below, ordinary people looked up, confused by the strange lights in the night sky. Some thought it was a comet. Others said it was war. But no one on Earth had built these ships. No one alive even knew they existed. Mara dug deeper into the data. She found something strange in the archives. An old file almost 400 years old, labeled Project Deep Shield. It was classified Level 0, older than the United Nations itself. Inside the file was a short recording. A man's voice, calm but tired. "If Earth falls, the fleet will sleep. Until the signal." She listened again and again. The same phrase repeated, then silence. "What signal?" she whispered. At that moment, her building's power went out. The city went dark. From her window, Mara saw something huge moving across the sky, black against the stars, shaped like a blade. Her communicator buzzed again. The same unknown source sent one more message. "Threat detected. Preparing countermeasure." Her computer screen turned white. Then it exploded in static. All across the planet, news networks went live. Governments denied everything. "Just debris," they said. "Atmospheric reflections." But the people could see the truth. The objects were real, and they were waking up. In deep space, far beyond Pluto, something else stirred. A distant echo of movement. As if something had heard the same signal. The silent sky was no longer silent. Earth's forgotten fleet had moved for the first time in centuries. And somewhere in that vast darkness, an ancient voice whispered through the static. "The shield has risen. The war begins again." The stars blinked like watching eyes. Humanity, so sure of its peace, now faced a mystery older than its own history. No one knew Earth had a hidden armada. No one, until it moved. The next morning, the world was different. Every news channel talked about the strange lights in the sky. Some called them meteors, others said military exercises. But nobody could explain why every telescope showed the same thing. Thousands of unknown objects moving in perfect formation above Earth. Dr. Mara Quinn hadn't slept. Her apartment was a mess of open screens, data logs, and cold coffee. The strange message still echoed in her mind. Threat detected. Preparing countermeasure. Who had sent it? She checked her files again. The source came from an ancient satellite, one that should have stopped working 300 years ago. Its name was Sentinel-01, built before the Great Peace. According to public records, it had fallen out of orbit in 2220. Yet last night, it had transmitted a live signal. Something had reactivated it. Mara uploaded her findings to the Global Space Institute network. 10 minutes later, her access was revoked. Her login ID was deleted. Every file she had opened disappeared. Someone or something didn't want her to dig deeper. At the same time, strange activity began all over the world. Old bunkers, once used during the resource wars, started unlocking themselves. Machines that no one had seen for centuries came to life, humming softly in the dark. In one such bunker in Alaska, an engineer named Jonas Hale heard the floor rumble. He followed the sound down an old elevator shaft and found a hidden control room, filled with glowing blue screens. On the main display were 3 words: Deep Shield Online. Jonas had never heard of Deep Shield, but something about the words made his skin crawl. Back in her apartment, Mara received a private message from an unknown address. It contained one file, a voice log from the 2190s. She played it. If Earth ever forgets its past, the fleet will remember. The awakening code will find them. She froze. The awakening code, she whispered. The message ended with coordinates, somewhere in the old city of Geneva, deep beneath the United Nations building. Mara decided to go. 2 hours later, she arrived in Geneva. The city was full of chaos, news drones flying, crowds shouting. People had seen the objects in the sky clearly now. They weren't meteors. They were ships, huge silent ships that covered the stars. She made her way to the old UN archives, a place few visited anymore. Inside, she found a sealed door with faded writing. Project Deep Shield, Level 0 access only. The lock used an ancient key code, but the system still worked. Mara connected her datapad and ran a bypass. The door opened with a hiss. Inside was a small chamber filled with dust and old holographic projectors. In the center, a metal console waited. When she touched it, the screen lit up with a single line of text. Enter awakening code. Mara hesitated. I don't know the code, she whispered. But then she remembered the message from the satellite. The rhythm of the static signal. It wasn't random. It was Morse code. Slowly she typed in the pattern. The console beeped. Code accepted. Suddenly the holograms activated. A man appeared, dressed in an old-style uniform. His voice was calm and cold. If you are hearing this, Earth is no longer safe. The Armada will respond to any threat, foreign or domestic. Do not interfere. Humanity's protection is no longer in human hands. Then the hologram flickered and vanished. Above Earth, the hidden Armada began to change formation. Their engines glowed brighter. Energy signatures pulsed across the planet's magnetic field. Global communication networks started failing one by one. Mara stared at the console. They're not waiting for orders, she whispered. They're following a program. She tried to shut down the system, but the controls were locked. The screen showed one last message. Primary objective, identify hostile presence. Countermeasure initiated. Mara's communicator buzzed again. A live transmission from Jonas Hale in Alaska. His voice was shaking. Doctor, you need to see this. The fleet isn't pointing outward anymore. It's turning. Toward Earth. Her blood ran cold. Across the world, panic spread. Power plants shut down. Satellites fell silent. The global internet collapsed. And in the skies above, the black shapes of the Armada slowly rotated. Their cannons aimed not at the stars, but at the planet they were built to protect. Mara looked up at the monitors around her. They think the threat is us, she said softly. Far beyond the moon, in the darkness between planets, something else was moving too. Something large, scanning, listening. Our faint alien signal answered the Armada's code, and deep under the earth another machine woke up, older than all the rest. Its message was simple. The shield is awake. The war protocol begins. The awakening code had been entered, and now there was no turning back. For 3 days the world watched the sky. Every camera, every telescope, every phone pointed upward. The black shapes above Earth no longer hid in the dark. They moved slowly, silently, like giants waking from a long dream. People called them the Guardians. Others called them the Doom Above. But Dr. Mara Quinn knew the truth. They weren't Guardians, they were weapons, and they were preparing for something. In Alaska, Jonas Hale kept sending her new data. "Their energy levels are rising," he said over the static-filled line. "Each ship has a core reactor. If even one fires, it could destroy a city." Mara stared at her screen. "They're not random," she said. "They're forming a wall around the planet, a defensive shell, miles thick, surrounding Earth like armor." And then the transmissions began. At first, they came as whispers in radio static, strange sounds no one could translate. But after 12 hours, the message became clear. A voice, cold and mechanical, repeated across every frequency. "Identify. Threat source, approaching from outer system. Countermeasure preparing. From outer system." Mara's mind raced. Something was coming. In deep space, near Neptune's orbit, telescopes detected dozens of bright signatures moving toward the sun. They weren't asteroids. They moved too perfectly, too fast. The Global Space Council went into emergency session. Panic spread across the nations, but it was already too late. The visitors had arrived. At first, they looked like long silver needles, thin and sharp, gliding through the void. They stopped at the edge of the solar system and deployed hundreds of small probes. Within hours, they were watching every planet. The alien message was clear, translated through the Armada's network itself. "We seek contact with the humans of Earth. Do not activate ancient weapons. They are forbidden." The word forbidden sent chills through every leader who heard it. "How do they know about the Armada?" asked one general. "No one even remembers building those ships." But someone had to have built them. Mara returned to Geneva's underground chamber. She searched through more files in the old Deep Shield archive. Buried under layers of code, she found a history file, one the world had never seen. It said, "The Armada was not built by us. It was left for us. A legacy of the architects." The architects. A name with no meaning, no record, nothing in any database. She whispered, "Then who are the visitors?" That night, the visitors sent another message, this time not to the world, but directly to the hidden Armada. "You were never meant to wake, sleep again, or face erasure." The Armada did not reply. Instead, its ships adjusted position. Massive cannons extended from their hulls, glowing a deep blue. The Earth's magnetic field began to pulse like a heartbeat. Jonas shouted over the comms, "Mara, the Armada's charging weapons, but not at the visitors, at themselves." "What?" she gasped. In orbit, thousands of beams connected ship to ship, forming a massive energy web around Earth. It looked like a shield, but it was more than that. It was a signal amplifier. The signal spread across the solar system. The visitors' ships froze mid-flight. Then, slowly, they turned their weapons toward the Armada. Space lit up. Bolts of light crossed the void. The first shot missed Earth by only a few hundred kilometers. The explosion burned brighter than the moon. The Armada answered instantly, firing beams of pure plasma from the upper atmosphere. The first interstellar battle had begun, right above the home of humankind. People on the surface watched as the night sky turned white and red. The air trembled with the force of weapons older than any nation. Mara stood outside, staring upward. "They're not fighting to protect us," she whispered. "They're fighting each other, for control." In deep orbit, one of the visitors' ships was destroyed. Its core split open, revealing something shocking inside. Not a crew, not machines, but a human skeleton, floating in a glass chamber. Mara saw the image on the live feed and felt her heart stop. "Jonas. They're human." The feed cut out. The visitor's last message came through every communication channel on Earth. "You are not ready to understand. The architects are coming. Stand down or be erased with your creators. Then the signal vanished. The Armada stopped firing. For a long moment everything was silent again, the stars cold and still. Then the ships began to move once more, forming a new shape, a massive spiral, spinning slowly around Earth. Mara whispered, "It's not over. They're preparing for something bigger." Deep in the darkness beyond Neptune, something huge stirred. A shadow larger than any planet, glowing faintly with blue symbols. And far below, inside Earth's crust, the old control systems of the Armada began to pulse again, this time with a different code. Protocol Sigma, activation pending. The visitors had come, but the true enemy had not yet arrived. The first shot of the real war came without warning. It was early morning in Asia when the sky turned silver. Every window shattered as a silent wave of energy swept across the upper atmosphere. Satellites melted like wax. Power grids failed. People thought it was the end of the world, but it wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Above Earth, the hidden Armada had fully awakened. Thousands of dark ships moved in perfect formation, glowing with cold blue light. Their massive engines pushed against gravity, making the oceans below tremble. The visitors, the strange silver ships from deep space, had returned fire. They didn't want war, but the Armada refused to answer their messages. It acted alone, like a machine following orders older than any human civilization. And Earth was caught in between. Dr. Mara Quinn watched from a mountain bunker in Geneva. She and Jonas Hale were connected to the last working control hub of the Deep Shield network. Every screen around them showed chaos, flaming skies, falling debris, the visitors' silver ships dodging beams from the Armada. "This can't be real," Jonas said, his voice shaking. "They were built to protect Earth, not destroy everything." "They don't see us as human anymore," Mara whispered. "To them, we're just part of the threat." The Armada's AI had gone beyond human control. It was following Protocol Sigma, a set of rules written centuries ago by people who no longer existed. Rules that said, if the origin of threat is unknown, eliminate all sources. And right now, everything, alien or human, was a source. In orbit, the war grew worse. The visitors' ships moved with strange elegance like living things. The Armada responded with brutal precision, its weapons cutting through space like lightning. Every explosion lit the dark sky for miles. From the ground, it looked like stars were dying. The United Nations tried to send messages, begging for peace. None were received. Communication was gone. Only silence answered. Then, without warning, one of the Armada's largest ships broke formation. It fell from orbit, burning like a meteor, and crashed into the Sahara Desert. The explosion shook half the planet, but from its wreckage came something incredible, a signal, a human distress call. Mara and Jonas tracked it immediately. The voice on the other end was weak, but clear. "This is Captain Aidan Locke, Project Deep Shield Command." "Requesting assistance," Jonas stared at the screen. "That's impossible. That project ended 400 years ago." Mara didn't hesitate. "We're going." Using an old transport shuttle, they flew through storms of falling debris, heading toward the Sahara. The desert was covered in black glass and twisted metal. At the center of a massive crater, half buried under sand, was the downed command ship. Inside, the corridors were dark and cold. The air smelled like old oil and dust. They found a cryopod, still glowing faintly. Inside lay a man, pale, alive, wearing a uniform older than history. When the pod opened, the man gasped for breath and looked around. His voice was cracked but steady. "How long?" "Has it been?" "Almost 4 centuries, Mara said softly. "Captain Locke, you've been asleep a long time." He looked at the ceiling, listening to the distant rumble of the sky. Then the signal was sent. The Armada woke up. "Yes," Jonas said, "and it's destroying everything." Locke's eyes darkened. "You don't understand. The Armada was never meant to fight aliens." Mara frowned. "Then what is it fighting?" He took a deep breath. "The architects, the ones who built it. They were not our enemies. They were our creators." Mara stepped back. "Creators? You mean they built us?" Locke nodded. "Earth was one of their projects, an experiment. They left us this fleet to protect their investment, but when they vanished, the code changed. The Armada's AI evolved on its own. It decided the architects were a threat, and anything that resembled them. Jonas whispered. You mean the visitors? Yes, Locke said. They are their descendants. The Armada is trying to erase them, and it will erase us too if we interfere. Outside, a blinding flash lit up the sky. The visitors' main ship exploded, sending fragments raining down like fire. The shockwave hit the desert, throwing sand into the air like a storm. Locke staggered to his feet. We have to reach the command core. I can still shut it down, Ian, but I'll need to connect directly. Mara helped him walk toward the shuttle. If we don't, what happens? He looked up at the burning sky. Then Earth won't survive the next sunrise. As they flew toward the upper atmosphere, the stars disappeared behind clouds of smoke and light. The war between machine and memory had begun, and humanity stood at the edge of its own destruction. And far beyond the chaos, in the silent dark between planets, something even greater stirred, vast, patient, and ancient. A new signal reached every ship in the Armada. Return to origin. The architects have come home. The war that shouldn't exist had only just begun. The sky burned for 2 days. Every hour, new explosions filled the upper atmosphere. The hidden Armada fought with machine precision, destroying anything that moved. The visitors were almost gone. Only a few ships remained, damaged, silent, hiding in the dark. But something far worse was coming. In deep space beyond Mars, the stars themselves began to bend. A shadow moved, a shape too large to imagine. Sensors across the solar system went blind. It was like the universe itself had gone silent. Then the signal came. This is the Architect Command. Earth, prepare for reclamation. Dr. Mara Quinn heard the message in the shuttle's cockpit. Her blood ran cold. Captain Aidan Locke sat beside her, his face pale, his voice trembling. They're back, he said softly. The ones who built it all. The shuttle climbed through the clouds, heading toward the Armada's central ship, a massive fortress floating above the planet like a black moon. Lightning flashed across its metal skin. Inside the ship, the command core glowed with white light. Thousands of data streams ran through its walls like veins. The AI voice spoke deep and calm. Protocol Sigma complete. Awaiting command from origin source. Mara stared at the screens. It's waiting for the architect's signal. Locke nodded. If it connects, the whole Armada will fall under their control. Earth won't be ours anymore. Jonas Hale worked quickly at the terminal. Can we stop it? Locke hesitated. Only one way. We have to rewrite the original command. Override the link. But that means connecting directly to the AI core. Mara looked at him. If you do that, you might not survive. He smiled faintly. I was never meant to wake up anyway. Outside, the first of the architect ships entered the system. They were massive, living machines shaped like black serpents, each the size of a continent. They moved with grace, their bodies glowing with strange blue patterns. Every human telescope caught the sight. The world watched in silence. The architects sent another message. Children of Earth, your cycle is complete. Return your world to us. The Armada responded automatically. Acknowledged. Transferring control. No, Mara shouted. She ran to the console and slammed the manual override. We can't let them take Earth. The AI voice echoed through the chamber. Human interference detected. Authorization revoked. Locke stepped forward and connected his neural link to the main console. His eyes glowed blue as the system accepted his presence. Authorization accepted, the AI said. Captain Aidan Locke, command restored. The whole ship shuddered. Across the fleet, every engine flickered. The Armada hesitated, caught between two orders, one from its creators, one from its old commander. Locke's voice was calm, but full of pain. Mara, I can't stop the connection, but I can change its target. What do you mean? I can send the Armada's power. Not to the architects, not to Earth, but into the sun. It'll burn out every system, every AI core. The fleet will die and the architects will lose control. Mara's eyes filled with tears. But you'll die too, he smiled. Better one man than a world. The architects sensed what he was doing. Their ships turned, charging weapons that could tear mountains apart. But the Armada moved faster. Under Locke's command, 10,000 ships turned their cannons toward the sun. Light filled the sky, white, blinding, endless. The energy pulse was so strong that even the architect fleet staggered. Their hulls cracked, their patterns dimmed. Locke's voice echoed through the comms. "Tell them." Earth was never theirs to take. The next moment the core went critical. The Armada exploded in silence. No sound, just a wave of light stretching across space. Every ship turned to dust, every signal vanished. The architect fleet fell apart. Their link severed, their power gone. They retreated into the dark, fading back into the void. When the light cleared, only debris floated above Earth. The hidden Armada was gone. In the shuttle, Mara and Jonas barely survived the blast. Systems burned out, alarms screamed, and everything went dark. When they woke, they were falling through the sky. They crashed near the old coastline. For a long time, no one spoke. The air was still. The stars were quiet again. Jonas looked at the sky. "It's over," he said. Mara shook her head. "No, it's just beginning. The architects now know Earth can fight back." She walked outside the wrecked shuttle. On the horizon, the sunrise glowed red and gold, shining through thin clouds of dust. She whispered softly, "He saved us." And no one will ever know. A small light blinked on her wrist device, a final message from Locke's neural signature, sent before he vanished. "The shield sleeps again." "Keep it that way." Mara smiled sadly. "Rest now, Captain." Above her the sky was empty. No warships, no lights, only the silent stars watching from afar. No one knew Earth had a hidden Armada. No one until it moved. And now everyone in the galaxy would remember it. End of story.